Oh boy, we're doing it again. Why are we doing this? Last night I had to mic up sax that instead of a normal bell had like a 45 degrees. What? What the hell?
Say that
again. Yeah, say that again.
What the fucking thing? I didn't say Siri, did I? Hey Siri.
No, I asked Siri what the temperature was, and because my Wi-Fi or shit is just messed up. Although it should be communicating with my phone through Bluetooth, but it just said, "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" Even though it was just having trouble computing, so it was just a coincidence.
Yeah. Let's see. What do we got here? We were going to talk about the brain a little bit, like some questions like, what the hell is neural? What is going on? I keep hearing Siri talking to me inside my head.
That one I don't know.
Stop talking to me inside.
I don't know why Siri.
Siri's kind of like a
but it was my
Robert
Siri.
F. Kennedy. It's like a Robert F. Kennedy worm. Brain is made out of plastic. Can you see okay and hear, Scott?
I can.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Scott can. Are you simul-streaming? Streaming, by the way, Dave?
Yep.
Okay. Let me go give you another viewer here. Forget what I'm doing. Not going to be too on top of things today, but obviously, never am. Lisping old pervert that I am.
What happened to your old balls?
Yeah, old balls, lisping old pervert. What was the other one? Oh my God, Jim Bob comes up with the greatest names for me.
Something. Well, weren't you homosexual or something too?
Yeah, homosexual sack of demon sludge.
Ah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, he keeps throwing homosexual at me like it's some sort of an insult, and it's like, really? I don't see that as an insult.
It only harms those that are not secure in their sexuality.
I guess so, yeah. And he keeps talking about it. He keeps bringing it up out of the fucking blue. I'm wondering, I hadn't thought about, this topic for a long time, and then he keeps bringing it up. Why does he keep bringing it up?
Well, Christopher Hitchens famously said, every time some big mouth is going on about the sins of sodomy or et cetera, I set my watch because they're going to show up in the news with a prostitute somewhere.
Yeah. They're always, it's amazing. Anyway, where are we? What are we doing? We were going to talk about neuroplasticity a little bit. And I don't know if can you see that, Scott? Scott, are you even with us anymore? See, Scott is muted. But
I think I'm with us. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, I can hear you now.
Yes, I see an outline of a brain, and then some color squiggly lights.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that is what's called the arcuate fasciculus, and it communicates basically between three different lobes. It's a big, but anyway, the point I wanted to show here, I wanted to show a couple pictures. They've done some amazing brain scans lately, and this I use for the thumbnail. But like on the outer edges, around the circle at the top, you see all these little projections going up there. Those are all projections.
What was the scan done with, Mike?
Oh my God, they probably used one or more instruments, and then they colorized it with after the fact. They made it colorized.
Okay.
They couldn't actually get a picture like that, but what it's showing is your white matter. So it's showing the white matter part of the neurons, which are the telephone cables that hook neurons up over long distances. And you can see, can you see my cursor? Yeah. Okay. So you can see my cursor, right? Up there?
Yes.
Yep.
I see that cursor
Yeah, we
moving.
see it.
Yeah,
It's a
okay.
crop
Yeah,
cursor.
up here at the top, you've got all these projections going to the cortex, which is the cortex is an amazingly thin layer that goes around the outside of the brain. All those wrinkles that we have, the reason for those wrinkles is so that we can get more area for the cortex, and the brain folds inward, and we can have a little thought about abortion too, because babies up until I think about 4 or 5 months don't have any folds at all. They haven't developed enough yet to even have that much cortex that you would consider them a thinking being. But anyway, so that goes up to the cortex, and then there's these big highways like right here at the middle of your brain, your midbrain, or what's called the diencephalon. There's all sorts of highways that go down to your motor system and up from your sensory system that control your body. And then right around this point here at the bottom here, just above the comment, there's all sorts of nerves going off into your head and your face that control your eye movements. I think there's 12 or 13 different nerves, which I can never successfully memorize, that go to give you a high degree of control over your voice box, your vocal system, your tongue, your eyelids, your smell, all of that, basically all spring up. And then you have these highways in the middle that go between the different areas of the brain that give us this remarkable ability to see something and think about it at the same time. To see something, to recognize objects, think about it. And this first illustration, I believe that one, that's a machine elf. Oh no,
Is that inside my head?
that's a machine elf. They
Oh
do
my
it.
God.
Yeah, okay. He's communicating from another dimension. Anyway. Yeah, Jay, that is the mess inside my brain. It is quite a mess. But yeah, this one, I think this one connects speech areas together. Like it connects your hearing speech with your saying speech or your doing speech. And I think anyway, I'm not entirely sure. It's really hard to memorize all these pathways, and that's one of my current projects. Is
So a
memory.
lot of pathways dedicated to language in
Yeah.
some medium
Yeah.
or another.
Yeah, we have a lot, and a lot of our thinking is basically hooked into language and what we do with language. But I'm trying to remember all these. They're called fasciculi or fasciculus. Okay, lisping old pervert has trouble saying this. Fasciculus, fasciculus, the fasciculi. And I think there's probably about 12 really important ones that you have to remember. But anyway, so that's the overall connection of involved in the brain. And now what do we got here exactly? There is, any neuron basically is, a cell body, right? So it's got a cell body. Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing. Shit. Okay. It did it to me again. You're not seeing it, are you? You're not seeing
I'm
my
seeing
drawing.
graph paper.
It vanished.
Yeah, because it bailed out on me again. This thing keeps bailing out on me, and I'm not sure why. You can see it.
Maybe it's just having trouble loading.
Have you cleaned up your hard drive and whatnot lately?
Huh? Oh, no, I never do that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that on a Mac. I got 2 terabytes, and I think I'm about to fill it up with papers and stuff. Maybe it's called the soma of the neuron. And there is, let's see, how can I do this? What is the best way to do this? Okay, at the top here, so it has an axon, basically. going out somewhere else, and sometimes branching a few times. And this would be your axon. And then it forms these little bubbles at the end called presynaptic, the presynapse, basically. And then they synapse on another neuron. But down here, okay, we've got this wild system, and the best way to do this is to just branch the living shit out of it. And this is called the axon, and that's the output. So that's out of the neuron. And this is the dendrite, or the input of the neuron. So, oh my God, we lost Scott and he came back. Okay, now typically the axons are a lot simpler than the dendrites. So this is the input to the brain cell, and you'll have what you're going to have here is, let me get a good one. You're going to have little spikes on these dendrites right here. And on one of those little spikes, there's going to be kind of a little, there's going to be a synapse of another axon coming from a different neuron. So here we have an axon again from a different neuron. And we have this synapse on this little spike. And the dendrite could have as much as 10,000 inputs to this one neuron, this one cell. And then it goes out, and maybe it'll have one or two or maybe a dozen or more outputs where it connects to another neuron. So what you're doing is there'll be a signal transmitted here, and we'll talk about how that happens. And then it starts to build up a voltage here, and eventually this voltage will change the cell voltage, and there will be this sudden collapse of the signal, or basically the magnetism or the voltage in the cell, and it will fire off to the end of this neuron. And then that will in turn fire onto another dendrite and another dendrite and whatever, or a muscle cell. Like, okay, if you have a striated muscle cell, you got all these axons that are synapsing on that muscle, and they will cause it to twitch. So you're going to twitch each of these individual things, and then you're going to end up moving. That was the beginning of our brain, is this idea of being able to send out a signal and twitch something, or receive a signal from some sort of sensory device on the outside of the cell or the outside of the organism and communicate it inward. But anyway, so what do we got here? So we got the axon, which is really important, and then we have a massive kind of an arbor of dendritic inputs, right? And the neat thing about it is okay, this one fires and this one fires and that one fires and that one fires and that one fires, and all of a sudden I get an impulse. And so it ends up being able to add up different neurons. And this is where kind of addition of signals happens in the brain. So that if a number of things are hitting this particular neuron through the dendrites, then it will fire. But only if it sums up a whole bunch of them. So it can act as a summing device. And there are other circuits, of course, that give you ands and ors and all this other stuff. But anyway, is that clear? That much clear? Can I find a synapse? I'd like to find a picture of a synapse. You guys you got any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay.
I was going to tell the audience, pay attention. You're getting a free science lesson.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to get rid of this. Get rid of my bad picture. So what you got in the brain?
I do have one quick question. How many neurons are there in the brain?
The thinking part of your brain, I think, has about 15, 20 billion. The cortex part, right? That's the outer part. And we should get some pictures out. So that's a real thin layer of the side. If you took 6 credit cards and stacked them on top of each other, that's how thin the part of your brain that does all the thinking, all the thinky stuff is in that little stack of like 6 credit cards, so it's just a few millimeters high, or maybe a millimeter, I think. And anyway, so there's about 20 20 to 30 billion there. There's 30 billion in something called your cerebellum, which is like a little calculator that helps you catch basketballs and play with balls. You know, men like to play with balls. Well, your cerebellum does that. That's another part of your brain that's kind of at the back, kind of hanging out here. But anyway, altogether, you have about 100 billion neurons. And the thing is that with, with 10, 15 billion in your cortex, you can have,
Don't be scared.
okay, you can have up to 10,000 inputs for each of those neurons. And so you got 10,000 times, like 100 million, right? So that's potentially how thick your brain could be, how interconnected it could be. So 10,000, 100 million. And that's where we get, what was that? Those blue people, the blue people on the planet. Oh my God. The movie.
Talking about the dance group from Chicago or
No,
Las
the movie.
Vegas?
No, the movie, the blue people on the planet. They're blue people and they're kind of like
that
Avatar?
family that lived in the Appalachians or something like that.
no,
Okay. I know here. Yeah.
no. The blue people on a planet. Okay, it's a movie series. They just had the second one came out.
Oh, geez, we're totally lost.
They're blue people on a planet.
How about Avatar?
Avatar, there you go.
Okay, yeah. I just said
Okay.
Avatar 5 seconds
How the
ago.
fuck did you get a family in the Appalachians? Blue people?
The blue people, they're
There-
actually
there
blue.
Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
kind of a lineage of I always want to call them curmudgeons, but that's not what they're called.
Called Smurfs.
That because of, I guess, their genetic makeup or whatever, have developed a blue tint on their skin, and I don't know if it's because of just a small gene pool, or if that's just an isolated community and that took hold in that community. But yeah, I seem to vaguely remember what you're talking about as Dave, as far as blue tinted people.
Okay. So anyway, so there are all these structures kind of that, basically this is your, goes down in your spinal cord or whatever. And
Hey, just real quick, they're called the blue fugates.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar.
yeah, and
They're from Kentucky.
okay,
From Kentucky. That's right.
focus, motherfuckers. We don't want to talk about blue
You
fuel.
brought up blue people.
It's a real thing. It's more like it's kind of silvery looking, but yeah, their skin has this funny tint to it. So anyway,
Yeah, I do that backwards.
Scott knows. So
I'm looking at
Scott's
a
hip.
Wikipedia article about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I pulled up.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Okay, so there are, the various structures in your brain, like the thalamus, basically, and there are these vast radiating, like those axons that I drew with the neural body. We got the dendrites and all that stuff. Okay, but those axons can be extremely long. In fact, a single cell can be, I think, like a couple of feet long, going into down your spinal cord. That's a single cell. And it's very, very thin, and it's a couple feet long, and that's why we have so much bone around it, because you can imagine how delicate and fragile that structure is. But anyway, so we've got all of these projecting highways, and then highways projecting backwards, to and from your midbrain, which is right here, which does most of the heavy lifting in your brain, most of the movement control and all of that stuff. And you got a lot of highways, and then you have
Mike.
I got love. I
Yeah,
love. Oh, thank you.
Midnight
Yeah,
has joined us.
it's mutual midnight. So and then you have these other ones that go like highways that go back and forth horizontally across the brain. And then you got highways going down to the spine and coming up from the spine and whatever. So what you were seeing in those diagrams is they colorize the highways to give you an idea how interconnected your brain is. And now, when all of this stuff is developing, when you're a little organism. It's a very, very complicated process, but there is basically a neuron forms, so you got a little cell that forms, right? And then you have all these factors that it starts to kind of grow little knobs out of it, here and there. And you got these weird factors that basically attract it over here and repel it at the base.
Is that emergent?
Yeah. Don't use that word on me, Dave. You're going to get me in a bad mood. But anyway, so what happens is this neuron starts growing. And of course, the whole brain and the whole body is growing at the same time. So there's a lot of stretchiness going on, right? But this neuron is growing toward its target, which is going to be the cortex. So it'll grow from, say, the thalamus, a walnut-sized thing that controls all of your sensory switching except for your sense of smell. And it's going to push that little cell is going to send out that little tiny piece of spaghetti, and it's going to go up here and it's going to contact another neuron and another neuron and another. So anyway, that is basically neurogenesis would be when these things divide, when these neurons divide, and dendritogenesis and axonogenesis, I guess it'd be axogenesis, and synaptogenesis are the names for when this thing goes out and contacts another neuron. So, whoops. So we got neuroplasticity.
One thing is the cortex then all that, or is the cortex kind of connecting all the connecting the connecting cloud in the sky to all the neurons?
Oh, that those highways, the highways. No,
right.
No, the cortex is like a layer of 6 layers of particularly very specialized neurons that are very, very thin, and they're at you got all those little wrinkles in your brain like that.
Right.
If you cut a cross section, you'll see like this little layer right here above. And that little layer right there, there's white matter here. So this is your white matter going up into that. But this is the gray matter. It's just a thin layer inside of these folds in your brain. And there's just all these folds. And the reason it's so wrinkled is so that we can get more area, right?
Right.
So does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
They're different types of neurons then. Yeah.
So this thing right here forms a 6-layer structure, and there's like layer 4, 5.
I know because the outer cerebellum kind of helps the brain communicate around, right?
Cerebrum,
or the cerebrum, yeah.
That the cerebellum is a very different structure. I'm gonna have to show you some pictures, basically. But anyway, you have all these layers.
Been a while since biology class.
Okay. And layer 1, and then like your thalamus will go up. I think I'm not sure what it synapses with. It synapses with I think layer 4 or 5, and then another layer goes back to your thalamus. So there's like a bidirectional. But this is very, very thin. Take 6 credit cards, stack them up, and that's how thin the thinky part of your brain is. The whole thing. Okay. So when we have like let's see here. Suppose we have a dendrite coming down, right? And it's branching off like this. We'll just kind of draw it simple, and it just sort of like peters out somewhere. And this is the input part of your brain. And then let's see, let's get it a little bigger here. Okay, and then it'll form a little spine, and that's like when these things grow, these roots grow, that's called dendritogenesis. So something that happens when you learn in your brain is you may send out more dendrites from this cell body, basically. Of course, here's the axon, and this is the soma, or the cell body, basically. And it's going to grow some new dendrites, and then it's going to get little spines here. And those little spines basically have like a bouton from another axon coming onto them, and it'll kind of like grow around. These two things attract each other, and there's all sorts of extracellular matrix that holds them together, and you've got a signal from some other nerve cell coming in, and it starts to release neurotransmitters into this little tiny gap, and they float across and they attach to basically membrane receptors on the dendrite, and then they start to send the signal. So that's basically what it is. So when a new one of these grows, like if you have an axon that's kind of like this axon is going somewhere else, and it gets the right signals, this neuron will start to grow around that little dendritic spine. It'll form a new connection in your brain. So that's what you wanted to know, Scott, that is neuroplasticity. When neuroplasticity would involve dendrites growing, or dendrites growing spines, or other axons forming synapses. So there's like several different things that can happen. And the bottom line is you're going to connect two neurons up together.
And what induces this?
That's the interesting part. And that is a subject that is still unfolding in science as we speak, basically. But there are let me see if I can clear some room here. I got some papers that I can pull up and show you some really neat little illustrations. But anyway, so like, you know, you've got an axon rolling by, right? And something is like basically, how the hell is it? Okay, so it starts firing, and say it fires a little, oh god, it's pretty bad. It fires a spike train, right? Like you're looking at my red kitty qualia cup, and this is something Scott can relate to. Like you're looking at my red kitty qualia cup, and you have
His dendrites just fired.
Yeah, and you have all kinds of
the pissed off and tired of hearing cliches. Dendrites fired up.
Yeah. So basically, you got a lot of pulses going down this axon, right? And when you have a lot of pulses going to that synapse, like this, so the synapse right here, okay, and they're forming all these, dumping all these neurotransmitters into the gap. Well, some of these neurotransmitters, like you've heard of reuptake inhibitors,
Yes.
serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Some of these things get reuptaked to the neuron, to the firing neuron, right? They go back in, and when it does, these little vesicles and other vesicles can send a signal to this neuron that basically changes its nature, so that if it fires again, or if it gets a little bit of a signal again, it's very likely to fire again. So once it's fired, it's likely to fire again. Like if you look at the red kitty qualia cup, it's going to be very easy to get you thinking about the red kitty qualia cup again, because the neurons are fired. But now, deeper than that, there's a long-term potentiation, where basically you build up enough, like you've fired this neuron enough times, that it's going to send signals all the way back here to the soma, to the body, which has a nucleus. And some of these signals are going to change the gene expression of that nucleus, and it's going to send things all the way back up to the synapse, and it's going to create more little vesicles that can release, or if it's a dendrite, it's going to create more receivers that can receive the neurotransmitters, right? So it's going to change those endings. It's going to modify their source and make them stronger. So this is all about Gold's Gym, weightlifting, making synapses stronger and better, right? So there's a massive interplay, and every neuron, like, it's different than, there are hundreds of different kinds of neurons, and they're all going to have their own signaling mechanism, and they're going to have a way to strengthen. So the bottom line is that if you run into something in your environment more than once, the organism is designed to remember that thing. That thing is going to start to carve its own pathways in your brain, so that when it fires again, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know what that thing is. I saw that thing before. You know, basically they're going to easily fire and you're going to recognize something. But so the whole business is dendrites growing, synapses forming, spikes forming on the dendrites, and the synapse and the spike get together. Okay, the daddy spike loves the mama synapse, and basically they make little baby neurotransmitters. Okay, you understand?
We have a question from Deconverted Man who I think is, I'm sorry. We have a question from Deconverted Man who I think is right now paralyzed because he's moving his arm.
Oh, where's... Okay, let's see. Okay, Deconverted Man, this one. And so what happens in my brain when I first think about moving my arm, that is, how does my brain start to know to move my arm? Okay. Good question. So do you understand? Oh, Scott's gone again. We lost Scott again.
That's right. I'll cover for Hicksville.
Okay. Your brain. Let me see. Okay. Kind of a really bad picture of the brain.
Yeah, that's what my brain looks like. I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. So right here, you've got a band at the top of your brain, kind of like where your headphones go. There's sort of a band through your cortex, and that has all your motor neurons that are going to fire into your spine and move your arm. So these things are going to move your arm. Well, what's really cool is you got something called the premotor area. And this is where the famous mirror neurons were found, I think, at first, in the premotor area. So you got a motor area and you have a premotor area. And when you start to think about moving, what's going to happen is, okay, this is your frontal cortex, or your executive control. This is where your free will kind of resides. It's going to start to plan a movement in your premotor area. No, I shouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't do things like that. Stop doing that. It plans a movement in your premotor area, and then it communicates with your motor area and fires off the movement. And you remember Libet, Libet, and it is pronounced Libet, came up with the experiment where they were able to figure out that somebody, before they even moved or were conscious that they were going to move, they could detect neurons firing in this premotor area that said they were going to move before they were even conscious of wanting to move. So that's where Libet came in with his famous research or whatever. But I'm not sure. Let's see if I answered the question. What happens in my brain when you first think about moving your arm? You're up here in the executive, and then you actually start to think about your arm and you plan movements, and then eventually you fire it off into this area. But it's not that fucking simple. Okay, there's a whole lot of stuff going on with something called the basal ganglia that goes back and forth and makes a decision about when exactly that movement is going to start. So you planned your movement and then you initiate the movement. And now there's one other area that's really important that involves this, and that is the sensory cortex, which is further backwards in your brain. So this is all your sensation is coming in here. And of course, there's all kinds of feedback going on when you're moving something. You're feeling your joints move. You're getting proprioception, it's called, the feeling of your joints move. Your eyes are basically detecting that movement, and you're getting a lot of information from your body and and from your eyes and from everything else that tells you how to home in and move something. In fact, I think most of our brains are designed just to move our body. We have a little bit left over. We atheists use a lot more of that for thinking than people like Jim Bob. But we use this part up here for, for thinking.
Don't say his name 3 times or he'll show up.
I won't. Okay. I won't. Anyway. So does that answer the question, Deconverted Man? Basically, there's an actual system in your brain, the premotor system. And the other thing is when you watch other people move, the neat thing is that your premotor area lights up as if you were moving. And then there's other areas that light up. Like if you watch somebody who seems to be in pain, some of your pain receptors are going to light up. And that's kind of how empathy is based. We're able to read other people's minds, basically.
What's the difference to like you mentioned a pain refill? What's the difference to if you touch something hot where it's, you said before that's a lot faster or something, isn't it?
Yeah, they're faster fibers, are more myelinated, and they very quickly turn around. In fact, some of them turn around in your spine itself. They don't even reach your brain. And
that's what I was going to ask. If it's a lot closer and it doesn't run all the way to the brain and back.
Yeah, there's reflexes that basically they have synapses in your spine that actually turn around a real fast reaction. Okay, why you can't turn off pain when you want to understand why I have pain and tell me something is wrong, but why can't I turn it off when I want, like holding my breath? It would be really nice if we could do that, or would it? Because there's a series I just watched where a guy was basically ordered by an angel to not feel pain, and he had his hand dangling over the edge of a life raft, and it got eaten off by a shark, and he didn't know it because he turned off his pain, right? So pain is something pain is so important that
is that an episode of Preacher?
I'm not talking about that. I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to give you any spoilers. Yeah, no spoilers on this channel. But anyway, just some series where a guy got his hand chewed off. That's probably the evolutionary reason why we don't have a lot of control over turning off pain. And the pain system is something I've never been all that interested in pain for some reason. I don't like pain. I don't know about you guys. Anyway,
I'll tell you some pain. My molar acted up on me about almost a month ago. And I said, I better call the dentist. I better not wait. And good thing I did. And good thing I asked them, can you squeeze me in a little earlier, And they got me in. And while I was sitting there, they could actually see my jaw getting puffier and puffier. And I started going, man, dude, this is hurting, man. This is hurt. And he goes, we can numb you up. And I was like, okay, because I had to come back a little later to actually get the tooth pulled. But, oh man, I mean, I was like, dude, I'm about ready to cry. This hurts. And so he shot me up with some Novocaine, and you know how it doesn't take long to kick in, and that the cessation of that pain is just one of the greatest feelings you can have, where it just goes away. And I gave my dentist a hug. I was like, thank you.
Yeah, I got burned by gasoline once, and they shot me up with morphine, and it had the effect of taking the pain off my chest and just lifting it above my body. And it was like this white noise that I could see above my body, and it was no longer painful. And I was just so I wanted to kiss the nurse. I just want to jump up and hug her.
I usually try aspirin and a heating pad. You know what I mean? I don't run for pain pills or anything, but there's been a few times where I looked him right in the eye and I told him the same thing. I'm like, look, I'm an aspirin and heating pads guy. This hurts. Yeah. I need a pain shot.
Really bad. Yeah. So, when I had my gallbladder incident, it was the same. They gave me some kind of drug, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." It's just like I was just so happy.
It is. Yeah, it is one of the best feelings when you can get that pain to go away. It is.
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
And that's thing too. Why are you so? You know what I mean? That's something else going on in the brain. Where you're like, is your brain happy the pain is gone too? Does the brain know that pain is bad for the body?
Well, yeah.
In a way,
you've got all
because your
kinds
brain's
of
trying to keep you alive, right? I mean, your main thing is the brain's keeping you alive, right?
right.
That's its main thing, right? Bottom line. So does it know that the pain went away and that's good, and then it gives you like a what do you call it, a endomorphin or endorphin rush or something?
Yep. Endorphin. Let's see. Okay, these are the facial nerves I was talking about: olfactory, oculomotor, trochlear, abducens. That's one thing, but that's not what I wanted to show. I'm trying to find a good picture of just a simple fucking brain. Just a simple brain. That's not it either. I don't think I have one for some reason. Well, let's take a look at this one. Okay. So basically there's, you see the cerebellum back here? It's right there. That's like a big calculator. That thing allows you to catch basketballs and do calculus and figure out where something's going to land. And then you've got your occipital lobe back here, which is where your vision comes from. And then you have the parietal lobe, which does a lot of visual and combines visual processing with everything else. So it's kind of like the main junction for all the trains in your brain go into the parietal lobe, and they tell you where you are in space and time. And this is a picture of a brain that's been cut in half in the middle. And then up at the top here is where your somatosensory cortex is first. And then there's a little strip for your motor cortex, and then your premotor cortex. And then it goes to your frontal lobes, where we have what we like to call the executive functions. And then the center of the brain has the thalamus and all sorts of other little switch boxes that allow you to make decisions. Like if you're on a diving board and you want to jump off, and you can feel yourself kind of jerking a little bit, like you're going to jump. There's something called the basal ganglia, and there's some neat circuits that stop movement and hold movement back and initiate movement, and some others that modulate movement. But it's a war between the I'm going to jump, I'm going to wait, I'm going to jump, I'm going to wait. And then all of a sudden, enough neurons fire on the I'm going to jump part, and you jump off the diving board, and you're ready to go. It's really kind of interesting how that works.
On a split brain question, is there literally enough to split a brain in two to make each side function? If you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it was literally sliced right down the middle, could each side still have all its function? All the little parts would be equally cut in two. If
you stayed up here, in the cortex part, like this is the corpus callosum, I think. This big band right here is the part that connects the two halves together of the brain. It's like a big band of neurons. It's really big in children, like newborns, and then it gets trimmed down so that the two halves of your brain are communicating. That's what they cut for some epileptic seizures that are so severe that they have to stop them. And that's where you end up with a split brain. But if you split this down here, you'd kill a person instantly.
Right, brainstem is bad.
Yeah, if you even get a little tiny stroke in this area, just a little piece, you'll never wake up again. There's just it's really important. But this part of
Closer to Truth was just talking with somebody that was talking about the split brain thing, where they had a case where somebody committed a crime, but then whoever, psychologist, I don't know, whatever kind of doctor that handled it, was arguing that it was the one half of the brain.
Yeah,
the other half of the brain wasn't involved in the crime. You know what I mean?
Well, so I would tell
the two sides of the brain were fighting each other in his head.
Well, I would send that one half of the brain to prison and give him a saw and invite him to separate the two halves, and one half could go
I think what they said is that in the end, I think they were able to treat it. And so when it was treated, therefore the argument was that, they couldn't convict the other half of the brain which obviously would be in, with the person. So it was an interesting thing, though.
Yep. Well, there are people born with a so-called born without a brain. There's water, like, basically occupies most of this cerebrum, or the thinky part of the brain, right? But they still have all this stuff in the center, and they can smile and react, and they seem they seem conscious to us, basically, by their reactions, and they're obviously able to feel, and something is going on. You can't localize consciousness.
Is that what they call water on the brain?
Yeah, I think so. My mom used to talk about, oh yeah, so-and-so child had water on the brain, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know the real term, but yeah, the nickname is something. Yeah, is water on the brain or something.
Yeah, and I was always afraid.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
I was always afraid when I went swimming that was going to happen.
Oh, Titan's got a word. Hydroencephalia.
Yep, hydroencephalia.
There we go.
Yep. Hydroencephalics. My mom used to talk about that all the time. She was overly fascinated with that. But what else? What else, Scott? What are the good questions we got?
We're learning so much, Scott. What else you got?
What else you got?
Well, that's kind of just wanted an overview, because for some reason, when people are ragging on physicalism or whatever, they ask all these questions about how could this be, how could that be, how could that be, and it doesn't seem that unnecessary to appeal to the brain and it's very, not only its complex biology, but its complex neural network system to answer a lot of the questions. I can't really think of a scenario right now, but I know there have been times, when something's been said, kind of doubting that that we can explain anything, because we're clinging on to physicalism. I keep going. Consciousness doesn't need any special cleaving. It's just a result of a complex neural network being built on top of some complex biology, and I just don't see any reason not to think that all of our propensities for anger, for hatred, for strong emotions, our abilities to calm ourselves down. People will often say, well, how do you explain his totally transformed life? Well,
right.
The brain can do that. You grow up, you encounter some shit, and you decide you're going to change, or you don't even decide you're going to change. Something happens to you. It makes an impression, whether it be trauma or something we call learning, and you change your behavior because of it. Why do we need to introduce woo spirits and invisible things into the mix? I just don't get it.
Yep.
Well, everything you described was electrical, chemical, and physical.
Yeah.
Where's the other part?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, okay, if you're a spirit mind, right? Like, people think they're like spirit minds. Okay, if you're a spirit mind, I have a lot of questions about why when you learn something, these synapses get strengthened. They either get bigger, or they end up with more vesicles, or they will have like more receptors and end up on the end, right? So when you learn something, that synapse strength changes. So that changes when you learn something. Why would you need that for a spirit mind to learn something? The spirit mind is capable of thinking and free will, and it can do all this stuff. Why the fuck can't it remember? And why would a spirit mind say, oh God, I can't think of that band, or I lost my train of thought? Why would a spirit mind lose its train of thought?
Yeah, I got another question. What do they know anything about all these little things you've been talking about that would make a person so-called smarter or a genius versus, just regular folks, salt of the earth type folks?
Yeah.
What's the difference that, why do some of these people, 5 years old and they're doing math problems and they're playing the piano and, is it just something about their brain is hyper focused, or is there really a smarter brain?
I just run into some stuff on that, and it's really interesting. But there are some parts of your brain, some connections, basically, or some nuclei, right, that are involved in like organizing different areas of your brain. And if one of those gets damaged, you can end up with a savant syndrome. And it's really interesting. Like I was showing that cerebellum before. Let me show you the cerebellum. The cerebellum is like a super calculator, right? And
Yeah, I'm going to put the link out.
Okay.
Yeah, Logan's defined smarter. I just mean, like, everybody knows some people just seem to have it easy in school. You know what I mean? They're very gifted. All these kind of things. You know what I mean? Is it that everybody can get there, or is there, are you just out of luck? No matter how hard you try, you're never going to be, Brian Cox or
I think you can
Lawrence Krauss or any kind of physicist, or you know what I mean, where you're on that other, rocket scientist level, whatever you want to call these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are definitely some differences in the structure of brains between really intelligent people and people that are not so intelligent. But there's also a great level of skill that you develop, particularly as you're growing up. It's going to get harder and harder to develop these skills as you get older. But you can become a skilled thinker. Like if you start when you're a child and you get the proper stimulation, that kid is going to be a lot smarter than the kid that doesn't get that stimulation, because you're going to end up with more pathways being formed. And the interesting thing about this is that there's, like, from your motor cortex here, like right here where my cursor is, down into that basal ganglia, there's all these loops that form, or into what's called your diencephalon. There's like loops that go around, loop after loop, right? So your motor cortex is designed with this loop. So you have that, I'm going to dive off the diving board. I'm not going to dive off the diving board. I'm going to dive off slowly, or whatever, right? There's that control. Well, when you get to the front of your brain, in human beings, we have a very large area right here, that an extra loop that has developed over other primates. Ours is much more swollen, and it's basically motor control, but it's not controlling the motor system, your muscles.
Good afternoon.
It's controlling what you think about. So, good afternoon, Midnight. So
Midnight.
It's controlling what you think. So, like when you walk, like when you start stepping and you're moving all these muscles in a sequence, thinking has been exapted from that system. So it's taken your motor system and made it an internal function. So now you're thinking. Well, you can develop skill in movement, like Taekwondo. And there's an equivalent Taekwondo that you can develop for your rational mind, for your thinking mind. But you have to work very hard at it, particularly the older you get, the harder you're going to have to work. Well, up until you're 22, basically, and then everybody's on the same page as far as neuroplasticity.
I mean, it does depend on your genetics also, because yeah, as you grow up, your neuroplasticity goes down, but there are people out there who for some reason maintain the same level of plasticity. In fact, it might actually even get better as time goes on, because these are the type of people who just keep learning, right? You hear it all the time of people keep reading like 50 books a year, or they do complex calculations. They study everything under the sun, Meanwhile, they are the ones who just do the bare minimum, go to college, get a degree, and do a bare minimum job, and make money, and they're considered smart in what they do, sure, but and that's what I wanted to talk about also because yeah, it's fascinating to me, the humans' intelligence, right? There are some people think, oh, there's no way intelligence is genetic. It can't be, but you see it all the fucking time that there is a genetic component to it, because if there wasn't a genetic component to it, how can how can the neurons function? How could cognitive functioning work if there weren't a genetic component to it? Like, you know what I mean? It's bizarre to me that they're like, well, intelligence isn't genetic. Like,
Part of it is.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Part of it is, but they get into their head that because they get the wrong impression when it comes to genetics, right? They say, intelligence is genetic, therefore it cannot be changed. Personality is genetic, therefore it cannot be changed, which is stupid in my view, because something is genetic does not mean it can't change or improve.
Yeah, you can always change your brain, and
Ugh.
you can do a great deal with that but it takes a lot more work than it would take for a 1-year-old or a 3-month-old.
Well, yeah, obviously, because as I said, the neuroplasticity in your brain does go down over time, but you can actually keep it up if you exercise, eat well, and all that. Old people can actually improve their BD. I have you.
BDNF.
Yes, thank you. I forgot what it stands for, but they can improve that, which will improve cognitive behavior. Sorry, which will improve neuroplasticity. You know what I mean? But
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, but that's only part of the story. That's what we were talking about.
oh yeah, of course.
Scott, we were talking about synaptogenesis. BDNF is one of the things that make that more likely to happen, but there are a whole bunch of other proteins involved that end up in that space between the dendrite and the neuron that end up kicking off that that synaptogenesis is what we're looking for.
Right.
But BDNF is one of them, and that's the one that they found out psilocybin and LSD increased that for about a month following ingestion. They increase that factor, but it isn't the whole story, so it's not going to be a magic bullet. But there's a really good chance that dosages of psilocybin allow you to rewire your brain more easily, particularly around areas of trauma and things that you want to fix psychologically. But you can't. Yeah. Anyway, so we have a question here. Hang on a second. I got to do something.
And I want to say a quick hello to everybody that's joining over at the captive desk. A lot of people on the paired stream there, and appreciate everybody stopping by. Hope you're learning a lot today with this free science lessons. Some fascinating stuff.
Oh no, it's not free. It's not free at all. Like they need to give Mike money. If Mike, you put up your PayPal or something, so they can give you a tip.
We're sending you all kind of virtual dollars. We'll send you. We'll get you some lobster bucks. Deconverted man. Deconverted man will hook you up.
Hey, fuck your virtual
No,
dollars.
No, it's points. It's lobster points.
Lobster.
They're only redeemable if your state allows for it. I have to check. I don't have any lobster bucks. We were told not to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. To answer this question, now, okay, you've got that cortex up here, right? Which is where all that stuff is stored, and I want to use air quotes around that. Basically, all your memories are stored. And there are times when you forget a simple word or you forget the name of a band or whatever. And there's all these little columns up here. There are mini columns, and then there's like more macro columns. You got about 30,000 of them, I think, across your brain. And you've got this thalamus down here. And this thalamus is a little device that allows you to Okay, think about concentric, the word concentric, like concentric circles. Think about concentrate. When you concentrate on something, you're losing information around the periphery here, and you're driving down into one little tiny area. So you're concentrating. So concentrating is really forgetting about all the shit that doesn't matter, right? Okay. So your thalamus is basically,
And that's powerful too, because that's I can be concentrating, and my wife can come right up over my shoulder, and it's like, oh, geez, I didn't, you know what I mean? You get so hyper focused on something. It's pretty powerful.
Anyway, your thalamus helps you do that. But then when you try to remember something, what you're going to do is you're going to light up a particular part of this thalamus, which is going to light up a particular part of your cortex. Well, what if the band name isn't there? What if it's over here? So what if it's in another part, right? The harder you try to remember, the more driven into this spot, the more you're going to concentrate and develop that tunnel vision for that particular area, and you can't find it there. And
it's like you're chasing something. Come here, you little bastard! And it's like, nope.
And as soon as you stop concentrating and you move on to something else, there's another part of your brain that keeps real temporary stuff called the hippocampus. And it's got that question in there. It still wants to know what is that band name. So that's still lit up, right? Then as soon as you start talking about something else, all of a sudden you'll say, oh, I remember the band name. You know, it's the Veils. The Veils and the Doors were two bands that I could never, because they weren't stored in the same part of my brain as band names were stored. So when I tried to think of the name for the Doors back in the 60s and 70s, I could never fucking remember their name. So what I had to do is I said, okay, doors, windows, holes. I came up with a whole bunch of mnemonic devices. So what I did is I connected doors up to so many columns that eventually when I think of a band name, I can think of that name right away. I had a similar problem with the Veils. And I had to think curtains, veils, shroud, you know, all these different words. And I was able to come up with it. But what's happening is that your thalamus is concentrating, and it's supposed to do that when you're trying to find some particular thing. You're going to work really hard at it. You can kind of feel it feels like your brain is like fucking clenching shut. Like, God damn, I want to remember that name. But the harder you try, the more driven into this one point you're going to be. And they look at it, they have actual scans of brains that they put together with a computer where there's all these waves basically. And you're over here on this wave and you need to be over here. And you can't get there until you let this settle down to the point where you're not concentrating, and now you can make that jump.
It's like, is there a reverse phenomenon when like you're told, don't think orange, now that's like all you can think of now?
Oh yeah, that's going to be
there's a meme game called The Game that was invented. I don't know if it was invented on 4chan, but that's where it got popular. And the point is, everybody's playing the game. You have to forget that you're playing the game. But if you ever remember you're playing the game, you must yell, "I lost the game," which then causes anyone else that's playing the game to realize that they were playing the game and makes them lose the game as well. And there's no way to win the game. You know, that's like...
That is insanity, and I love it.
Yeah, it's like there's no way to win other than memory loss. Complete... I love this. Wow. So it's like every now and then I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the game thing. Oh yeah, oh that means I lost. Oh man, I'm supposed to forget that I was playing it.
There's a meme that goes around, Mike, that everybody laughs about. Why is it I can remember my phone number from the house I grew up in,
right?
But I can't remember the passwords for Google or whatever.
675-309.
Is it a matter of it was more important to us to know our phone number because we had to be able to push the buttons, to communicate and stuff?
Well, generally, if you remember, sorry, go ahead. I was taking your thunder.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, the way I see it, generally the reason why you remember phone numbers and the places where the addresses where you live is because you have an emotional attachment to them, depending on the number, obviously. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I think. 'Cause the more emotional attachment you have to something, the better you'll remember it.
Yep, right here, limbic system. Now, the interesting thing is, like, as you go through the day, you've got this little memory ribbon, right? That records from the beginning of the day to the end. And when you go on a trip, it also records from the beginning of the trip to the end. It's called the hippocampus, and it basically works with your limbic system. Like if something is really important, something real scary, or something traumatic, right? It's going to imprint these particular neurons with a little more juice from the limbic system than you would normally have for something like if you're just watching something you don't give a shit about, right? So you're going to have these little spikes of a certain kind of neurotransmitter laying around in this system. And then at night when you dream, you run through this entire system. And when you run into those things that are important, it's going to go up into your cortex, and it's going to create that synaptogenesis that we started talking about. So if you're emotionally involved, more emotionally involved, you're going to have more salient memories. So you're going to remember it. And then there are other things where who knows why in the hell we remember some trivial thing that doesn't seem important or doesn't seem emotional, but it's stochastic. I mean, it isn't a perfect
I
system.
mean,
Yeah.
I would say the emotion is there. You just don't realize you have the emotion attached
Right.
to whatever you remember.
Okay, I had two wiki things here.
No wikis. Kidding. Go ahead.
No, well, on the little private chat to compare and contrast these two cases of unique.
Wiki is lobster approved.
That way you knew it was safe. Oh, jeez. One time, I'll tell you, they never let you live it down.
Oh shit! Oh shit! I
said
almost
not to click on it. I said don't search for it. I didn't even link it.
I forgot who you were. I almost just clicked on it.
Click it. It's safe. I don't do that. Jeez. God.
Why don't I believe you?
No, it was one time. I told you not to do it. Now I'm telling you to do it.
Because he's mad. He's mad. He's mad.
It was one time.
You people are insane, and I love you. Never change.
Yeah, but we were all there, so we're not going to forget that one
Yeah,
time.
you know, whatever.
Okay, Abby and Brittany Hensel. Okay, is this going to be a sad story?
Yes,
no,
maybe.
No, they're interesting. I think it's an interesting story.
Right, but an interesting story can be sad too. So.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's sad because they're still alive and everything like that. So.
Well, good. They're still alive.
I mean, they're doing well as far as I know.
What the hell was that? Human eggs?
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting if they ever get married, like how that will work, because they each have separate driver's licenses, and in the case of the other one, where they share,
are these two the conjoined twins?
Yeah, they have two heads on one body.
Yeah,
and then the other one I linked to, because I forget which one's which now. The other one I linked to is they have their heads are merged, so they basically they do share thoughts. So this one, the one doesn't share thoughts, like they can't read each other's mind. The other one, because their heads are fused.
Yeah, what they got recently married.
Yeah,
like laughing about it. Like,
I saw that.
Did they
Yeah, they got married.
Good for
yeah,
them.
they did.
Yeah, man, that guy.
Two different male husbands.
Really, I thought it was one guy.
No, there was a guy standing on each side of him.
Oh.
I thought only one of the sisters got married with one husband.
No, because I would think I
have to look. Hang on, I'll double check it.
I mean, they do have different.
One guy.
They both had to get their driver's license. I remember that, which I thought was kind of like weird, but whatever. And I was like, oh, what's gonna happen when they get married? Like, that guy or girl, whatever, is gonna be pretty happy about that situation, I guess. It's like, I love you today, honey, and I hate you today, honey. Yeah. It's like, I want a divorce. The other one's like, no, I want to stay married. Like, oh,
But
God,
it's
no.
it's such a bizarre occurrence. Like,
Yeah,
it's like it's just it's one body, but it's two heads. So therefore, like,
yeah,
what
it's
is the
two
rib
people.
cage like double? I don't know. Like,
I'm not sure of the rest of these deal. And then the other one is more unique than that, where there's their heads are tied together, so they
Yeah,
they do share
cranial cages.
consciousness to some extent, but
Yeah.
it
It must have been best man in the photo or something. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're married to one guy.
I'm not sure which one's which. Without because the Wikipedia doesn't show it, but so I'm not sure which one.
There-
People are making so many jokes about them. I kind of feel bad.
Yeah.
Abby,
and Brittany are
Yeah.
the conjoined, and then the other one is the other one I linked that you haven't pulled up yet is the fused head.
Abby
whatever
is the one. Abby is the one that's married. So Brittany is not married.
But
Oh, wow. That's Abby Pencil. Wow.
but
That's
Okay.
what it says.
So
According to public records, Abby
okay, yeah, no,
and
legal,
Josh
like
are married.
legally, but they're. But
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
That's
Oh, they look so happy. Oh.
yeah. So I'm just wondering if Brittany wanted to marry somebody else.
No, they. I mean,
So
I
they
mean, honestly, if they share a body, whatever Abby feels, I'm sure
Yeah,
Brittany
yeah.
feels as well. So it's like,
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so-
amazing. It's just
Right.
amazing.
Okay, so when you look
Interesting situation. Yeah.
when you look at these two cases, ask yourself, how would a spirit mind account for that shit? Where you have one that does not share consciousness, and then you have this other ones with shared consciousness.
Right. Yeah. The other one with the fused head.
In one there's two spirit minds, in the other there's one. There you go.
Look. It's all
Yeah.
part of God's
It's
mysterious.
all part of
plan.
God's mysterious plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fused head one is a little bit harder to really because you hope that they it's amazing that they survived and still are around, I think, but it's a little bit I don't know, it's a little bit sadder in a sense, because it's like it's far more difficult for them, you would think, to navigate life than the separate head person.
We had a set of conjoined twins in a town.
Yeah, so Krista and Tatanana, or however you say that name, so they're conjoined Cranopegus twins. So they share a skull and a brain.
Yeah.
So they are they one person? Are they two people? How? I mean, do they have independent thoughts or separate thoughts, or is it all? I don't know. I don't know.
I really wish we had video of that.
There's videos of them playing around and stuff, and then but I don't know if there's any pictures of their brain or anything online.
No. I'm talking about videos of them talking, of someone asking them questions.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's been lots of articles and stuff like that about them, obviously, to raise awareness and probably get the parents some money and whatnot.
Speed is gonna kill me for this, but I believe we're biological machines.
Yeah, go fuck yourself, midday.
Oh,
So
no. We're an emergent biological machine.
Yeah, but he still hates the term machine.
We're emergent property of the machine.
okay, guys, this Abby and Brittany Hensel, they lived in a town where I owned a hobby farm, and they would ride by us on their bike, and they're from the New Germany, Minnesota, and they one of them I think passed her driver's license, the other one didn't.
Yeah, they had to
Like,
separate.
it was just bizarre. Or passed her learner's permit, but they.
Wait, you see them around?
I did. Well, when I lived out in New Germany, you'd see them.
Did you have to look twice?
Yes, definitely. We did it.
God,
Sorry,
No.
it's so
Yeah.
bad.
No.
Sorry,
No.
I couldn't help it. It's just so evil.
Newspaper. Newspaper.
Whoa,
It
double take,
was
quadruple
an
take. Wait.
interesting experience, and then I think they were on like Oprah and shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. They made the circuit, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that got their, I'm sure they have medical bills up the wazoo
Oh, yeah.
and that's same reason for the ones. I mean, the other ones are more like why can't they read each other's mind? Well, their brains are connected, The other one's like, okay, that one's more complicated, I think, as far as the Krista, I don't know how to say the name, Tatiana, yeah, Hogan. That's more of the that would be a very difficult one to know what's going on neurologically. I would think, 'cause it's like they can't separate them; they would both die. And are they considered one person? I guess we consider them two people.
You mean
For
the
legal?
brain joint? Those?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I was talking about the thalamus, and there's a lot about. There's a little bit about. They have a unique thalamal connection between the two, and it has valuable insights into the neurological foundations of consciousness. But that was that thing I was talking about where you concentrate. But the thalamus does a whole lot more than that. It's like a big switch pad for everything we think and experience.
Well, and some for all the science nerds out there. Abby and Brittany teach math and science, and that they say is their strong point.
Oh, wow. What do they teach at? I wonder.
They teach 5th grade at some school.
There's an episode of these called on Amazon, Joined at the Head, that covers.
It just says 5th grade in Minnesota. That's all it says.
Oh, cool. So they're teaching. They probably teach in Waconia, where my kids went to school. Interesting. Wow. That's where they went to school too, by the way. So.
And if you're wondering what they're doing, they've kind of ducked out of the limelight since their show, and they're just trying to have a little thing. And I guess the guy they married had a daughter, so they have a little family thing going.
Aww.
So there you go.
That's great.
I put those two in the description of this video. So what else we got in terms of things to think about? But the thing is that the more you study neuroscience, the more you find correlates between your own day-to-day experience, like, not being able to remember a name or whatever, and with actual brain structures that are doing physical things. So then you got to ask why the spirit mind would have some of the same problems that a physical brain has. Forgetting things and all that shit.
The metaphor I remember from when I was a believer was that your brain is like this radio receiver, and the spirit itself is sending out a signal. So if the receiver gets broken, it can't
I prefer a TV
hear it
receiver,
or whatever.
honestly.
And well, it doesn't really. It's like, okay, but what good? That doesn't really seem to there. It makes it unprove. It makes it unfalsifiable, of course, because it's like, okay, it's receiving a signal. Wouldn't that signal be detectable? I mean, there has to be a physical
brainwaves.
There has to be a physical component at some point for the spiritual to interact with the physical.
Haven't you heard of dowsing rods?
Yeah.
Well, that was
that's guesswork. Yeah, I mean, you're shaking a stick and
that's your detector right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, James Randi showed that was bullshit.
They could update them nowadays with put little LEDs on them so it would blink and stuff. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I've seen the James Randi test where they
and
they didn't do very good.
Machines that do this, that, there was one that was like the thing you plugged into your wall. It was $100 or $200 that blocks the transmission of the 5G tower. and they opened it, and it was made of plastic, and that's it. That it was just a big giant plastic.
You see the Michael Shermer dowsing rod that they were selling to the schools to detect marijuana.
No.
It had a 9-volt battery in it or something in the handle, and then it just had an antenna.
I remember,
on it, and it wiggled around.
S.J. Thomason on when I was still on Twitter before the X, formerly known as Twitter, and she said, "Oh, I can tell when evil people are around. That's why I don't want to hang out with atheists in real life." I'm like, "Oh, really? I'll give you $1,000 to prove it. And here's how the test would work." Blah 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 blah. Oh, and she's like, "Oh, it's just because you can't test something doesn't mean it's not true." I'm like, "Yeah, no, it kind of does." She knew that if it was tested, it would fail.
Yeah,
that's what's amazing to me. It's like you say you can do something, and then the moment someone's like, "Oh yeah, we can test that," oh well, that's what
and the thing is, those marijuana dowsing rods, some schools actually bought them.
Yeah, I
so
placebo pills that do everything you want.
Marijuana dicing rods were a scam.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, I didn't hear about them until now, so
you could make something that does it for real, possibly. I mean, I know dogs can be trained, so I mean, there must be some scent that maybe we could detect in some way, but you'd have to show that it works first.
Well, if it's good enough, you're going to smell it, no problem. You're going to smell it all the way down the hallway.
Yeah.
Everything works all the time in your own mind. Remember that.
Well, I mean, it's amazing how many things that could be testable that suddenly become quickly untestable the moment that you offer to do a test.
I put it to SJ too every time she talks prophecy. I was like, okay, I'll grant it to you. Now give me because she'll say, well, most of them have been fulfilled. I say, okay, out of the ones that haven't been fulfilled, give me one, and let's call it like in the next 20 years, so I'm hopefully still around to see it. And we'll write it down right now. And I can't really do that. Really.
One. Well, a lot of them are vague. I remember there's one, but I don't know what it is offhand. I just vaguely remember something. I think it's Quran that has, or maybe it's the Bible. I don't know. But anyways, there's a city that there will never again people that dwell in this city.
Tyree.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, somebody was there with a tent, so doesn't that count? Like, no, there was like somebody lived there, like in a tent for a while, and I'm like, well, they dwelled. Doesn't that count?
Well, it was wrong too because it was supposed to be utterly destroyed by one of the Nebuchadnezzars or one of those generals or something.
Well, what do you mean?
And it ended up, they ended up with a treaty. They didn't ended up destroying the city either. So it's totally,
it's totally partially destroyed. So I mean, it was sort of destroyed, or the original city was destroyed, or and then it's always this backpedaling and reworking of it. And
I will give it to the Islamic apologists. When I was on their channel, they said, no, I can't give anything like that for you. They straight out just said it.
Yeah.
The Christians try to twist around, and like you said, it's vague, and
it's always post hoc. It's the science found out X is true. Oh, here's a thing in the Bible that looks like that if you tilt your head sideways, And Matt Slick famously would quote, and I didn't know until way later, he would always quote the same passage at atheists, and he didn't read the whole thing, of course. But he's like, oh, what's that sound like? And I'm like, I don't know, it sounds like poetry to me. What are you talking about? Like, what does it sound like? And it's supposed to be about Jesus or whatever. And it's like, but if you keep reading, it's not about Jesus anymore.
I'm fair. Like you said, I'll grant the post hoc, right? I'll say, okay, I'll grant you all those. But like you said, to fairly test it, as anybody that's skeptical should be, there should be some that are going to happen maybe tomorrow or something. Right?
And there's no method that I've ever been presented with of how to determine what parts of the Bible or the Quran or what have you are prophetic. Like, how do you identify this is a prophetic thing because it's like inside of a verse. It's like they're talking about, walking across the desert and they're like, oh, see how this means this thing? It's like, no. They were,
they're gonna say,
you were talking to that one guy who was
Isaiah
saying,
53, and it's like Isaiah 53 is about Israel.
yeah, you were talking to that one guy, Dave, that was talking about how the spark of life was a something, and you were looking at the verse, and it was like, when I read that straight through, it's just like it's poetic, whatever. It doesn't seem to be talking about anything in particular, and to extrapolate that to mean something else is if there was a system where it's like, here's how to find the prophecy or the hidden coded message.
Yeah, I would have took, something like when the man lieth with a woman, her womb will twinkle or something like that. That would at least be close. But yeah, they're reaching so far that it just says spark. And then, like I pointed out, when you search the Bible for spark, well, just like, when you search the Bible for spark, there's spark for all kinds of things. Yeah. So the Bible isn't clear on what they mean by spark either. So you get more vague.
When a human life starts, is there an actual?
No, it's James pulled up a video that's only when they dye it with something in the lab.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that they can actually see it happening in the dish or whatever, under the microscope. So
under certain conditions, it looks sort of like a spark, but
right,
it's not,
yeah. What was
actually like? I would think it's like a spark of electricity or something like that.
Some kind of some kind of chemicals when they interact, they make these little sparkly things, but it's also under super magnification. Maybe even like electron magnification.
It looks kind of like a cross unless you zoom out and it gets tilted.
Yeah, I brought that up too. Yeah,
it looks like that's a cross. And then I remember watching this one preacher preaching to a church, and the camera was painting over the faces of the crowd, and he's like, "Look at this," and they're all looking like they don't look interested. They look kind of bored. He's like, "Don't you see what it is?" And they're all kind of like. And he's like, it's the cross. And then
Tamasil
they had to be told what it was, and then they responded,
yeah, it's what's they call it? It's on the tip of my tongue. The Tamasil or something like that protein. And it's not even a cross. It's not even a good X.
Yeah.
And it's got this little doohickey on it. But you know what else they do? They enhance it. And then they get out their little deconverted man paint kit there, and they put the line, and you know what I mean, and they define it,
Yeah.
And a lot of times, when you look at the real photo, it doesn't quite look like their photo.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, with all this, like, prophecy, whatever, it's like, okay, if you're gonna give us that. But it's going to be vague. It's not going to be super specific, and it's either going to be contrived or self-fulfilling or able. It's not. And why do all that? Why not just be here? Just be here. There's no reason for Jesus or whoever to go back to heaven. Just stick around as an immortal person, walking around, walk across oceans. Just be around to interview all the time. Why not do that? Why do this? I'm going to give you hints, and then I'm going to hide. And so,
until science discovers it.
Yeah.
Then it's not hidden anymore.
Yeah. Well, this Muslim ish viewer was saying, all these miracles in the Quran. So I did a video about that, and he's like, okay, well, maybe, they're not really that, but I don't know. I haven't studied it. But how. What about this, or how do you explain this, or whatever? I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of things we don't know the answer to, but that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that this is true, and you're looking to the prophecy or whatever. It's like, yeah, well, why not reveal? Oh no, when I said about the revealing part, he's like, well, maybe it wants you to look for it. I'm like, how do I know? How do I look? How do I look for something that I don't even know is a thing to look for? It's so silly. If you really want a relationship with somebody or whatever, then you you make that accessible, and you don't go, why doesn't God have a YouTube account? Like, come on, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, that thing looks like a sword.
Yeah, laminate. Yeah, I was
Oh,
close.
it's a cross. Well, why not just put? But why would it be the shape of a cross? Why wouldn't it be the shape of? Why wouldn't it be in the shape of the words for Christ in Latin or Greek or Arabic or something?
And you need an electron microscope to even see it.
Yeah, like why not just be obvious? I just be obvious. Just be there. Say hi. Just stop hiding. It's so
Even
silly.
Answers in Genesis is questioning whether or not we should like make a big deal of this. I think.
Yeah. There's stuff.
Oh, and I've got a religious argument to try on you there, deconverted man. The Shroud of Turin. Okay?
Oh God, not this again.
Now,
yeah.
the reason that they often give as to why we can't find the Ark of the Covenant and all the other relics is because God doesn't want them found because we will worship them as idols. But and the Shroud of Turin, we shouldn't be able to see it, right?
Well, that's why the Catholics locked it up, so nobody can see it anymore.
But that goes against the religious argument, doesn't it? As to why these other artifacts can't be found, because there's always God doesn't want them to be worshipped as idols.
I haven't heard that God doesn't want them to be worshipped as idols. But then everything that would be an idol would be hidden then, which would be like all the paintings, everything. It's like, it's just.
Well, supposedly all these things are hidden. You know what I mean? All the things from the temple, etc., and everything. They're all hidden somewhere. Until that time when they can all go back to the temple. Otherwise, they would be worshipped unless they're at the temple, and then they can be worshipped there. But
sure.
Listen to this, atheist. Kidney beans are kidney shaped, and kidney beans are actually they're actually good for the kidney, and God planned it that way. So here we go.
Coconuts are good for the balls.
There's ones about heart too. That certain fruits or veggies, if you cut them, they look like a heart, and if you eat them, they're good for your heart. So I've seen those before.
Yes, so it's called God's Pharmacy. So
there's a whole bunch of those. Yeah.
Is there something that's shaped like a tooth that if I ate enough of it, I could regrow teeth?
Well,
they're working on that. They're working on stem cell stuff where you'll be able to grow teeth back. They're working on it. They're working on it.
I just watched a South Park movie about this thing that you can take that makes you thin or whatever. And I guess it's based on real stuff or whatever. And it's like they only prescribe it to people who have diabetes. They don't want to prescribe it to people
for all the dental work I have to suffer through. I would rather just go through teething again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just growing
another set just comes in, pushes all the old crappy ones out.
Pull out all the crap ones and let me grow new teeth and new gums.
You better take care of them, young man. After they do that.
Look at this. Walnuts look like a little brain, and they're actually good for your brain.
Oh,
and carrots are actually good for your dick, I think.
So what about bananas, though? I would think a banana. What about the banana, man?
The banana. Where's Ray Comfort?
Do I eat what about coconut? I mean, those kind of look like nuts. So are they good for my nuts or are they good for my head?
Or is Al still around the chat? Al's got a Banana Man song.
If you eat eggs, do you get pregnant more easily because they are like the eggs of the ovaries? Or wait, but wouldn't that mean that if you just ate another person, that would be really, really good for you?
Oh yeah, that'd really be great for you.
Wait, that's what happened to Jesus.
Babies.
He got eaten.
Yeah, atheists eat babies for that reason because we know all about the science, man.
Well, I still maintain my theory that Jesus' body wasn't found because his disciples ate him.
And Hollywood's drinking all the blood so they can stay young forever.
That's true. That's actually true, though. They
My
are drinking.
goodness.
Well, they have weird things in the forest. I don't know if they drink blood, but they absolutely have them in the forest. Yeah, that they do weird shit. They do weird shit. That is true.
They
And
do
the
do
frog-
some
the
weird
frogs-
stuff.
The frogs weren't gay, but they were terribly mutated. That turned out to be true.
Well, some of these perfectly normal people, they go to Hollywood and they're there for a little while, and then a reporter sticks a microphone in their face, and it's like, what happened? What?
My God,
Right.
is this
What
a
happened to
parody?
you there?
Is this a parody site? This God's Pharmacy? Because
that's
okay,
great.
if you slice a carrot, it looks like the human eye, and carrots are good for the eye.
I told you there's a whole bunch of those. Yeah, I've seen that stuff before. Yeah,
But you have to slice it.
it's
That doesn't count.
it's super pareidolia.
Well, and avocados look like a womb and a cervix of the female, and they're good for. Like, what the fuck?
Do you watch Maya's show? Do I
So
have
then-
to tell you? Do you have to tell
Okay.
you what caves are?
These people have sex with avocados, don't they?
So wait. So would weed be good for hands because it kind of looks like a hand?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why you shouldn't eat lobsters. They don't look like anything.
But then you'd get those 2 extra little leaves sticking
Oh, here we go.
out your wrist.
That proves the lobsters is true because lobsters don't look like any body part. That's why you shouldn't eat them.
Figs are for your balls because figs hang in tubes when they grow. They hang in tubes, right? So figs are good for your sperm and that.
So that would make raisins bad, right?
Okay, let's look at sweet potatoes. Do sweet potatoes look like a pancreas? I would have never made that connection.
Huh?
Sweet potatoes look like the pancreas.
Oh, maybe. Well, it's got those little lines inside, like
Olives are ovaries. Oh, yeah, and they both start with O. Why would they both start with O
olives over.
if God didn't mean that to be like about ovaries? Right?
Wait a minute. What is the
wait,
Greek?
I
What
didn't-
is? Wait a minute. What's the Greek word?
for olive?
What's the Greek word for olive? What does it start with?
But in Greek,
Probably O.
Jehovah starts with an I or whatever.
Yeah, didn't you just watch Indiana Jones? They were running them. I was watching it. I love them.
Greek word for olive. Let's see here. Oh, it's olive is alea. Alea. With a funny little lambda.
So
Yeah,
I've been watching the show. I watched the first season of 3 Body Problem, and highly recommend it. They do something where they send a brain into space. So with enough technology, like,
Was it Abby Normal?
yeah, can we do like? And then there was the video just lately I saw where they canceled the head transplant. Didn't go through. I was kind of hoping that they would do it, but
Yeah, I saw that.
it didn't happen. But anyway, so would we ever get to the point where we can switch heads with somebody else or put your? I guess you can't really put your brain in another person's body because you need the brain stem and everything.
Yeah.
But if you did
real
switch,
difficult.
if you did the head, wouldn't you have to take your spine with you, or?
Yep. Well, not only and then your spine wouldn't connect to any muscles. Your whole fucking body is just shot through with your nervous
But
system.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if we could do it, like if you could take and put your head on a different body,
Like a stem cell thing.
yeah, wouldn't your personality drastically change because
Yeah.
of the new body?
Yeah, it would. Basically, if you had your
But
whole
would you
cortex,
would you internally recognize the difference of yourself being different? Like,
you'd know that your body was different.
yeah,
If you hooked
but-
it all up, you definitely.
Why don't we do? Why don't we try to do like like what the original Avatar?
yeah.
Like,
They put
you
the
know,
Okay,
well, that's silliness because they
let's not be so
they-
greedy. Let's just wire our dick up to another body. like our dick brain part, the part, part of the
Yeah.
brain that's hooked to the dick, hook it up to
Right.
some other dude's body,
Yeah.
like somebody who basically is more successful in the mating pool.
Oh.
It just needs a switch so we can turn it
I
off
just
when we
need a
need
bu- no,
to concentrate.
No.
You could go on a journey of
If-
self improvement to
No,
to,
if you
to
gave
better your
if you
chances in the dating
look,
pool.
if
Oh,
you
that's
had
too
a
much work.
button that
Oh,
gave you
fuck.
if you had a button that gave you an orgasm, you would do nothing but push that button all day. Right?
No, that's you.
But
That's
but
you
what?
with-
Okay, what if you got wired up to some dude's dick, and instead of basically instead of going out, he's like a chronic masturbator, right?
Yeah. What if he turns out to
Oh,
be
fuck,
gay and you're not gay?
There you go.
No.
Did you see the memes about the
Well, could you
Iranian president with his 72 virgins, and they're all hymns?
what? No,
Wow,
they had
they're all guys.
with the dude
Yeah.
that died in the helicopter
Okay,
crash.
You know,
Whatever
the
floats your
classic
boat,
white couch picture, right?
Yeah.
I need a button that dispenses cheese. I'm gonna wire up a device that gives cheese to Nerdy Rodent whenever he makes something I randomly decide to email him about. And he is like, he's like probably
Well, it's
looks at
like-
the email. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
It always brings up the genie question. You know, when you ask the question of the genie, you got to specify.
Yeah, what's it
Because-
say about eggplant on that site there?
Okay, nerdy rodent. Don't you know about Easy Cheese? Oh, okay, it's like a little can of cheese that they sell. It's got
Not
a
real
button,
cheese.
and you press the button. Well, it's funner than real cheese. It's a lot
Doesn't
more.
even taste like cheese.
It's
Cheese in
called,
a can.
it's
I can't
called
believe it's not cheese.
I
It's
can't believe
called
I'm still alive from
easy.
eating cheese in a can.
oh,
It's not
easy.
cheese.
Yeah, especially when they
can't
call
believe
it
I'm still alive
easy.
in general. Like, why am
can't
I
believe-
alive?
You press a button. You press the button. A cross comes out. I can't believe it's not Jesus.
When we were kids, we
spreads great on the Jesus toast.
when we were kids, we found this. We had this old station wagon that was abandoned, and a junk car out in the field or out in the woods. And we found my friend found a container of Cheese Whiz, and he opened it, and Cheese Whiz. Oh, it was
Oh
horrible.
my god!
It had been there for like 5 years, so it was like 5-year-old.
They had all kind of
disgusting.
they had all kind of flavors too.
And anyway, every time he
Put it on a Ritz.
every time he got drunk, he'd get the shit-eating grin and say Cheese Whiz, and we'd remember. Oh my god, what a horrible!
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's the eggplant
Us
on this
kids would
one?
eat it right out of the can too. Would be squirting it right in our mouth.
Eggplant on website.
Eggplant. We want to know what eggplant is.
Eggplant.
I don't know what eggplant is. It sounds
On the
scary to me.
website.
What?
The website you're on.
It's on- you always know what eggplant is.
Okay, where's eggplant? Let's see. Okay. They don't have eggplant.
They don't have eggplant.
They don't have eggplant. They
Oh,
should. It's got to be
Come
good for
on.
the ovaries,
it has to be
right? Or
good
It's
something.
for the-
It's an incomplete list. Come on.
Nah, that website's shit with that eggplant. Come on.
God separated the salt water from the fresh. He should have done a better job. Made dry
I had
lemon.
a whole thing I was watching about salt not necessarily being bad for your heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That-
Oh,
Depends,
the fish thing too.
depends on your kidneys.
The
Yeah.
explanation for the fresh and saltwater fish after the flood is fresh and saltwater don't mix. So there were pockets of fresh water that
Oh,
the
yeah.
freshwater fish lived in, and there was pockets of saltwater that the saltwater fish lived in, like a bunch of bubbles.
Okay, I heard him talking. About the flood, right? Okay, this wall of water is coming, 700 feet high because the fountains of the deep opened up, and there's these dinosaurs running across the beach, and they're leaving tracks, and this 700-foot wall of water washes over the mud and the sand, and somehow fossilizes the footprints of the dinosaurs. So every time they see dinosaur tracks, fossilized dinosaur tracks, they believe, or animal tracks, they believe it was running from the flood. It's like, okay, think about
Yeah.
this. Just a
I've heard that.
minute. Just a minute. I mean,
Oh,
when
Jim Knob responded to my comment too. By the way,
oh, did he?
I made a comment on Big Bad Mama's video, about the Noah's Ark or something.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you want to know about Noah's Ark? I said, do you believe there was a literal Noah's Ark, global flood, 4,300 years ago? So we'll see if he answers.
Whoops. Where the hell is Big Bad Mama? I think I had it here somewhere. I did. I don't know where I had it. Let me see here. I got too many things open. Here we go. Big Bad Mama.
Big Bad Mama. Yep. I'm in the comments, and
Okay.
the knob answered me.
Let's see. Where are we here? Knob answer. Oh, he actually looked at. Okay, here we go. Jim Bob. Jim Bob got all frazzled and left Mike's chat the other day when we asked him to tell us about the magic zoo boat. It was great to see. Let's see. Okay, what did Jim Bob?
Well, Big Bad Mama told me that he believes in a literal Adam and Eve and a Noah's Ark, and I said, "Oh, really?" And Mama gets around and seems to know these things.
Yeah. What's your question about Noah's Ark? Well, okay. Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, Big Bad Mama in his chat asked a question about Noah's Ark. Why don't you be honest and tell us about how Noah's Ark led to biodiversity today? He said, what's the problem? What's the problem?
What's the problem with
a
it?
bunch of animals jumped off the boat, man, and they're just all.
And they did it, and there you go.
Oh, there you go. What a knobhead he is.
Don't you know how to do it? I mean, you just do it.
I've been trying
There's
to talk.
animals everywhere.
I've been trying to talk to these people about their argument against physicalism and how it's leaping from one category to another, and they don't fucking get it because they can't imagine that the mind, anything about the mind or humans or language is physical, right? They just, their minds cannot wrap their little brains are so taut. They're as taut as the skin around an erect penis, and they're constricting their cerebrum so that they can't get their mind around new concepts at all. They're just completely fucked.
Yeah, I'm stuck on they just want to add unnecessary things. It's just,
I don't know.
Here's a tangent I got for you. So antinatalism.
Oh yeah, that's a good
magic zoo boat.
This whole channel is pro-extinctionism. So he's not just antinatalist. It's that all consciousness should be wiped out to get rid of suffering.
Good.
And I'm like, well, yeah, you go first. That's
yeah,
kind of,
right.
I'm like, yeah, go ahead. I said, why are you still making videos? Because I have to get the message out. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. But I'm like, yeah, but if you're wrong about your idea, then you're producing more suffering by spreading your idea. If you're really against suffering, then you better make sure that your idea is a good idea, right?
Well, that Baker, Reverend Baker guy, he sells those end of the world buckets, and it's like, now wait a minute.
I said that the idea should die out when all the people that believe in it die out, and they're like, well, no, that's not necessarily true. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I guess the only way to kill a bad idea is with logic. Let me know when you get around to doing that.
When the world ends, you need a bucket of dehydrated food.
Nerdy Rodent has a new argument.
Yes, it's premise one.
Benevolent gods.
An all good God wouldn't allow for cheese in a can to exist.
No.
Premise two, cheese in a can exists. Therefore, conclusion. Therefore, an all good God doesn't exist. There you go. Yeah, very simple. Did it. And then you could add in something like.
Don't forget Oleo. Don't forget Oleo.
Jesus isn't real, because Jesus is real, and then Israel is actually a country and shouldn't be called Israel, and therefore something, I don't know.
The Oleo / margarine stocks crashed overnight when people actually found out what it was, and it's like
no more bully talk. I can't deal with the bully anymore. I had a dream about that guy. Oh, jeez. Actually, no. I had a dream about this gal who was the reason that the multiverse and universe everything existed, she was the multiverse and she didn't know that, and once now that she realized that, like everything started warping like around her like reality, and she's like, no, I don't want this. I'm like, yeah, but we got to keep her like wanting the universe to exist. So it was really weird. It's like, what the hell is
That's like Animal House with that far out professor that talking philosophy with. What if each atom in your fingernail is another universe? And
yeah, sure.
And the kids are all sitting around going, "Yeah, far out, man." We're passing the joints around.
I had that. I realized that when I was like, I don't know, real,
why not?
real young,
Yeah.
like preteen, and it was just like every atom seemed like a like a solar system.
Yeah, like the entire universe is a giant molecule for God.
Yeah, it was an amazing realization.
We're in the toe.
Guys, I'm being evicted from my house, and the sheriff and the van are outside. So I gotta,
cool.
Yeah, so I probably
got.
Bye.
These things happen.
Yeah, you can live here. I got a spare room. Email me. I'll hook you up. Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I kind of want to end the stream. So.
Oh no, you're not allowed.
Well, thanks everybody. There was a lot of people joining. You had a lot of people in the chat, Mike.
Yeah. Pretty good. Okay, thank you all for being here. And you guys got anything? Deconverted Man, you got a lot of stuff coming out all the time.
Yeah. You never know. I might be gone for a while. I might disappear for a while. But I'll reappear again later.
Or he'll have 10 live streams in a day.
America.
There might be some reason that I vanished for a while. I'll let you guys know.
You're going down to South America to join an ayahuasca ceremony. That's what
today is Saturday, right? Yeah. Okay. In 1 week and 1 hour from now, Joe, the Kentucky Atheist, is going to be on with me doing the Grassman Chronicles about Mothman and the Point Pleasant Bridge collapse.
Ooh, good.
Mothman.
Mothman did it. Okay, guys, we're out of here.
Brains.
The box world.